Well, everyone. We are back. We are here with episode 80 of the What the Sheep podcast. Yep, the big 80, where Alana and myself will be discussing, breaking down, and most definitely freaking out over Exandria Unlimited Calamity. We are going to be discussing mostly last night's episode, but also Exandria Unlimited as a whole, since we have not had an individual podcast episode for each episode of this show. But holy moly, this series almost needed it. Every episode was chunky and filled with so many things to talk about.
Yeah, it was impressive. It was very impressive.
It's been a while, even with the regular Critical Role episodes, that I have more than like a page of notes. Mostly it's like a page, maybe a page and a half. Each one of these episodes has been 2 pages, and I've had to like condense notes so I could fit more on my single page.
I took notes. It's been a while since I took notes. I actually took notes last night because I've got to remember this. This is wild. There was so much that happened in this 6-hour period. Technically. Wonderful. Oh my goodness. As a side note, I'm watching it again tonight. I'm watching it with my brother for the first episode. I'm so excited to start again. I loved it so much.
That's why I think this series was so beautifully told, and it was wrapped up so well with no like real loose ends and such, that it does allow you to go back and rewatch it now with all of the meta knowledge of like what happens with all these characters. You can start to see why some of them were making certain decisions, and that's what we can kind of focus on right now, looking back towards episodes 1 and 2, when we are first introduced to these characters, when we are first introduced to Avalier, to their motivations, to the way of life in this peak Age of Arcanum city. So we can kind of go through each character and talk about like our initial impressions and such, and sort of what their motivations were. I think the big one right off the bat that I would like to talk about is Laren, who wanted to use this apogee solstice to create a new ley line, essentially. She wanted to write a new ley line that would teleport the city.
Give them the ability to travel. That's because we talked about this a bit in campaign 2 and a bit in campaign 3, talking about the celestial bodies and the way in which kind of solstices and alignments, how cool and interesting and exciting they are. The idea of this apogee solstice, so it is a solstice, but it's one that comes every 100 and so many years, and the fact that the last one was so powerful that the Raven Queen was able to extend, it's very exciting. And then to think like, this is a unique goal. This is something that has never been done before. And to interact with, I think when Brennan's describing, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, but describing the ley lines as essentially like the veins, the heartbeat, the blood of Exandria. 1, it's like, wow, that's amazing, that's beautiful, this is really cool. And 2, it's like, oh, that sounds dangerous. This sounds like you got to know what you're doing with this. And you know, with hindsight now, with like knowing what happened with Evangelion and everything, it's like I want to know to what extent did they figure out they didn't know what happened to Evangelion, and yet they're still trying to do it. But I think it was more the apogee's coming. We can do it on the apogee. That's when we can do it. But I love this super dedicated and kind of neurotic wizard character that she had. Not neurotic's not the right word, but just atypical kind of wizard that Abria has created. So intimidating.
It was awesome to see, and I think all of their characters hold true to the idea that the reason for the Calamity was to part to the hubris and the arrogance that these mages had. And that definitely shows with Leyrin, that despite the strange, maybe not necessarily failure, but miscalculation with what happened with Evandrin, she still wanted to move forward with her ambitions, her goals of freeing Avalier from the bindings of the mortal realm. As, you know, as what Paisha was saying, and Paisha held this idea as well, and it, you know, sparked something within Leyrin. If the matron of ravens can be free from the mortal realm and ascend to godhood, why can't all of us? Why can't the city of Avalier ascend to a greater plane?
And it's so fun because it's the exact same kind of methodology or understanding that Vespin had for himself and for other wizards as well. Like, it just so happened that he turned down, but that's exactly the same thought he had. And
it's interesting because a line that Quay had said, I believe in episode 3, yes, history is what people decide to put out to the public. They might not even know you exist. What I really liked in episode 4, and we're probably going to be, not to jump
around. No, just this one.
But I really liked the moment of clarity that Xerxes was able to grant Vespin from their fiendish form. Vespin, in this moment of clarity, basically saying that all he really wanted to do, and he could have been lying here to try to, like, redeem himself, but it seemed like his motivations was to follow in the footsteps of the Matron of Ravens, but he was seduced by Asmodeus, as Xerxes was. And Vespin even gave, like, a word of advice to Xerxes, or just, a word of wisdom, basically saying that be careful how, like, you want to be remembered, because you could be remembered as the villain, as I will be. Recognizing that he himself maybe didn't want this to happen. He was tricked into all of this happening, but now he's going to be remembered as Exandria's greatest villain because of the deals and mistakes that he made, which is, again, like, brilliant, because that's not how we have learned Vespin to be. Like, we did learn him to be the greatest villain, but now we have this little glimpse that, okay, maybe he wasn't actually evil. He just fucked up really, really badly. Which is cool.
It's like, no, I loved that scene, and we'll get to it when we talk more about episode 4. But Vespin was such an interesting character, and just getting the little snippets of them throughout the series before they finally are revealed. I mean, the ending of episode 1, where they're in the mirror, and you're just like, oh no, Vespin is not good. Something's gone wrong with Vespin. That idea of hubris and the wizard society, magocracy. But it's nice because it was a very slow kind of tarnish of that understanding of what the society was like. It started with a bit like, even with Paisha and her interactions with Loris and what's the old dude's name?
Eldamir.
Eldamir. I was thinking Amir, but that's her grandfather. With Eldamir the Wise, it started quite positive. It felt, very bureaucratic and a bit, red tape-ish. But it was very much like, oh, okay, these people seem not too up themselves. There was a few snobby people at the party. But, it's replenishment. Let them be snobby. So we kind of got this nice sense of idea, but it eventually all went the way we kind of expected it to. Oh, man, these mages, they're in it for themselves. They only care about the elite. Screw these rich folk, like, sort of attitude. But, no, it was nice to see that kind of slow tarnish and that slow humbling of the city itself. We talked about hubris and we talked about tragedy and how the fatal flaws will always get you in the end. The fatal flaw of Avalier as a whole was hubris. And
it's beautiful because all of these characters were built on their strengths and what they were good at. That's how they've gotten to their position of power that they're in. And one note that I had wrote down for episode 1 is I loved every design of the character and all of their powers and strengths and such, because in campaign 3, we're still with, the bottom feeders, they're still low level. They're not really in with the upper echelon yet. And so when Bell's Hells went to that party, and then they're seeing all of these like powerful NPCs, like the face of the Shande Corum and stuff. Even Gianna Hexam, like these powerful in position and stature NPCs and stuff. We're like, whoa, like we're intimidated by them. Like, oh shit, like these guys mean business. But in Calamity, the PCs are those powerful
that was
NPCs, which is a really cool perspective.
It was really fun, and I think it was one of my main comments of episode 1. It was so satisfying to see. I mean, one, because they're amazing role players, but two, just because they had such well-rounded characters. It was so fun to see established characters in a setting, with roles and jobs and alliances and NPCs that they have history with. That was really interesting, and it was so good to see them like enact on those relationships and throw their weight around essentially at this party and throughout the city. It's cool because like we're so used to in a lot of D&D and in a lot of Critical Role, as you say, the bottom rung, like they slowly have to build that respect and build that power and influence. But it's just nice to like jump in, and because of the short form nature, we can just jump in and see what it's like. It was great. It's really cool.
It was awesome. And again, your comment about them being incredible role players and stuff, and just how natural the role play felt. That I feel like they slipped into these positions of power so effortlessly, and with them using this position of power, it was just so fluid and natural that it just painted such a complete picture without needing the 14 levels of backstory that got them here. It was awesome. Like I felt like by the end of episode 2, and even by the end of episode 4, even like it felt like we had been with these characters from the beginning.
Yeah, I felt that too. It was, it was the exact same feeling. Because we just, like I said, because it was such a condensed amount of time we spent with them over a long span of time, over probably like 18 hours or something close to that. We get this really in-depth view of these characters. And Stormy Boy's just brought it up. I think Sam said in episode 1, like there was a 20-page document that Brennan gave them on Avalier and of the makeup of the city, and they themselves obviously had incredibly detailed backstories. I just feel like there was a lot of preparation and planning went into this series, like a lot of character development, a lot of research. Brennan speaking about how much time he spent with Matt to develop the city and how to address Exandria as a whole and how to live in this world. It felt super organized and super planned. It was detailed and just executed perfectly.
Exactly.
And Brennan's a machine though. Like Brennan's wild.
Brennan was incredible. We can take a moment, and we'll probably take several moments throughout this episode to speak on how amazing Brennan was with telling this story. I thought Taliesin was the king of one-liners. I think that actually goes to Brennan. So many times he would just pull like just the most profound, thought-provoking one-liner that had so much emotional weight just out of his hat, and I was like, how is he? Like I even looked at like Luis and stuff, and even he like after some of the things that Brennan would say, Luis would just be like, what? How?
Well, it's like he's incredibly intelligent, he's incredibly charismatic, and he's an improv actor. So it's like that's his background. So being able to just fly out on the spot with these incredibly intelligent comments and nuanced responses. That's the thing. They weren't just like reactionary responses. He wasn't just shouting for the sake of it. They were incredibly nuanced to the character he was portraying at the time. And he knew how to twist the knife. Like, he knew how to... But it just goes to show how much work has obviously gone on between Brennan and the characters, and the players, I should say, to develop the characters, because... I don't know, sometimes it just felt like he knew exactly what to say to that character imagine like playing someone's, dead husband or playing someone's children. It's in-depth role play. And
that's
so good. So good.
And things like that Brennan did, I think, added to like the flavor and the backstory of these characters, because he did that for like each character. Like, he gave them like some kind of an emotional connection that like humanized them, made them relatable, and that they're not just these machines for Avalier, these mindless, arrogant machines, only thinking for themselves. He gave them very humanizing traits that allowed us to connect on a more personal level with these characters, which definitely helped a lot. I think one of the biggest ones is Sarit, being the eyes of Avalier, and then giving him a family, children, a wife, that chimed in at the end of or at the beginning of episode 2, where they had that first interaction over the sending stones. Incredible way to just add more depth to these characters and emotional weight. Definitely.
His kids, like, they were too cute. They were too cute. Like,
it was too much.
As soon as it happened, it's like, oh, what an amazing scene. That was wonderful. Like, how cute and how kind of fun that scene was. No, like, instant stress about these children. Oh goodness, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
we'll talk about the kids later.
It's the beauty of how this story was told, that we know what's going to happen. Like, we know how it's all going to end. And so the beauty of like every decision that these characters are making is so important, because it's that dramatic irony. It doesn't matter what decision they make, because we know what's going to happen anyways. It doesn't matter how genius a plan is on how they're going to stop it. We know it's not going to work in the end. And so it's trying to be creative in how you then tell a story in a compelling way, even though failure is always what's going to happen in the end.
And that's summed up by like Brennan's final line of the show, which started to get me teary. But why do we tell stories? Because it's to make sense of the worlds and to make sense of like what can be a frightening and maddening place, and to understand that your story did happen. It might not be remembered. Like, obviously in the spectrum of in-game world, it might not be remembered, but it did happen and it did matter. There was reason and meaning behind your actions. But from our perspective, it's like, well, that's exactly what I was thinking in the first episode. It's like, well, Calamity's going to happen anyway, so sucks to be these characters a bit, but going through and, as you say, learning and living with these characters for the amount of time that we did, it's like, it's so beautiful to think that their story still does matter to the world, even if it is forgotten. It matters because, they were people. They put meaning into what they did. It was beautiful. It was really good. Story.
It was really good. But I want to talk a little bit about, because it's something that I've talked about for my on my pre-game streams on Thursdays. How each character had like a strength, but then that strength was also their reason for why they had a hand in the calamity happening, why they had a hand in things that went wrong. So with Leyren, obviously it was her ambition. Her ambitions got the better of her. she messed with things she shouldn't have, especially with the, arboreal calyx and stuff. And I feel like Leyrin and Paisha kind of go hand in hand, since Paisha was also all about collecting knowledge, and Paisha could get more knowledge by going to these other planes and gathering more knowledge in arcane power and such. And so they kind of went hand in hand, where Paisha's strength was gathering knowledge, but that was also the reason why things went wrong, because then she aided Leyrin in trying to create this Layrite, and then that's why Evandrin, because some of the early predictions that I had with Paisha and Leyrin, and then by adjacent like Loquacious and stuff, is that very early on I was like, I'm pretty sure that Paisha and Leyrin had a hand in what happened to Evandrin. Like, it's not that it was like insane theory. Like, a lot of the again, this goes to the beauty of how it was told, is that the information we were given was enough to draw the connections without having things being revealed, needing to be revealed. And that was one of them, where, Evandrin was definitely tied to what Leyrin was trying to do, and all that stuff. With Xerxes, I think, obviously his, he's a tried and true redemption paladin.
Yeah.
To the death.
Let's just have a whole episode talking about Xerxes.
Yeah.
Like, I could spend like 2 hours talking about Xerxes and this goddamn character. Redemption to a fault. Even like as you say, to the very end, I was surprised, but not disappointed with the choice Xerxes made at the end. But I loved. The like a tortured character as well, not like in the constantly broody or moody style, but they're being tortured by these dreams, by these this influence of the Lord of the Nine Hells putting into their mind, like laying the trap essentially for Xerxes, which is really sad to think about. That like. Were they targeted because of their role in the city, or were they just targeted because, I don't know, maybe Asmodeus recognized their strength and their conviction, and that was like something that just stuck out to Asmodeus as like, these goddamn mortals, like that's what I want to break. But just seeing this character with like this such a strong conviction from someone that is hurting so much. Those moments when like Xerxes would take control and like shout or issue a command, it was like, that's why they're the first. That's why they're the first. Yeah. Like this character is commanding, and they are strong, but they are so like not broken. Broken's not the right word, but they're just so tortured inside. Just because they're grieving, they're filled with grief, and then filled with kind of. Just imagine you having dreams of, a devil and a prime deity like fighting in your dreams. You'd be like, what's going on? I don't even believe in God. So like, pretty stressed. I did like in that first episode where Sarah was doing an insight check on Xerxes to be like, how upset is Xerxes about this dream? And Louis had a really good thing. It's like, if Xerxes is telling you about it now, it means it's happened like 20 times already. Which is like talk to your friends if you're having bad dreams. Talk to your friends. But it just kind of goes to show kind of what a stoic character they were. I like the recurring theme of Xerxes not answering questions. Like, it's if you go to Abria's Twitter, it's like filled with just like answer the question, Xerxes, or like avoiding confrontation, avoiding questions directed at them. Just pretty funny. It's like that's that conviction. That's that I truly believing what he was doing was for the best, which he truly believed he could save the Lord of the Nine Hells. It's just
but and it's they were each arrogant in their own ways. Like, they all held that hubris that that's talked about with this series. It's like even Xerxes was so sure that he could help redeem the fucking Lord of the Hells.
I
That
love it.
he was willing to do anything to accomplish that. And I think.
I
Oh, no, go ahead.
was just gonna say, I wonder if his idea of redeeming the Lord of the Hells was, I mean, partly it's got to be just from his knowledge of what happened during the schism with the betrayal. Like, was he thinking like something changed, something shifted in Asmodeus, something that could be redeemed? Just because based on the stories, the mortals would know the schism was that something happened, the betrayer gods decided, no, we're against the mortals now, and then they got sealed into the abyss. I'm wondering from his perspective, is that like, you know, surely you're not like this, and obviously his dreams played a role. It's like, no, you're a wonderful person, like you've got potential, sort of thing. I can fix him, for lack of a better term. So I'm wondering, like, what his motivation of trying to redeem. It's just the sense that anyone could be redeemed, and his understanding or his belief that, you know, the gods aren't better than the mortals, which I love that. And it's not something you see in modern day Exandria. There's not many like agnostics or atheists in modern day Exandria, at least not that we've seen. Right. So I loved his view of the gods and the fact that, you know, they're either level or they're equals, and that because of this he can be redeemed, he can be influenced, and he can be not controlled, just, you know, met as an equal.
And I think that is precisely why, and again, EXU Calamity is a story of tragedy, of angst, if you will. And I think because Xerxes was so devoted to his beliefs, that is precisely why Asmodeus chose Xerxes to try and bring him back, because he knew that he would be able to use his honeyed words to sway Xerxes to his favor, and to get him on his side, which just makes it even more tragic for his character, because we know Asmodeus to be the Prince of Lies. He even said so himself. And even Xerxes knows that, but again, it just goes to the arrogance. Like, he was like, it doesn't matter because I can fix him. I can save him. And all Asmodeus needed was to keep Xerxes right on that edge until he pulls him through into Exandria, and then it was like a light switch that he you know, Asmodeus revealed his true intentions and his true self.
It's concerning too, not to skip ahead right to the very end, but it's concerning to think of a champion of Asmodeus, which is a redemption paladin. Like, imagine like a lawful evil, essentially, paladin of Asmodeus that is on like a twisted sense of salvation. I kind of want to see Xerxes
it's cool.
again later media.
So cool.
Like, I want to believe that at some point the deal was broken and Xerxes was able to go to his place amongst the stars with Evandrin and Elias. But I kind of want to see a lawful evil paladin champion of Asmodeus turn up at some point. That'd be really cool. Oh my goodness, I think. Oh, it's so hard. I was trying to think like who was my favorite character, but it really changed. It literally, anytime one character was focused on, I'm like, oh, that's my favorite character. Like, they were all so cool and exciting. I think, such good choices, such good role play from Louise as well with this, because that ability to not meta game and be like, I know this is the Lord of Lies talking to me right now. I'm going to do what I think I mentioned this at some point before. It's like, it's the best possible version of it's what my character would do. Like, my character would go for it. Like, it's playing to what they truly would believe.
And they also, because it's interesting because it's obviously not scripted, but this definitely felt like the most structured piece of like Critical Role media that we've had, which I don't think is a bad thing because it still told a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, it's what their characters would do, but then they also have the meta knowledge that they almost have to make the wrong decision because it's how it happened, if that makes any sense. Which is also just such an interesting concept to play with in a role-playing setting as well.
I think a lot of it is, I know Brennan's talked about it before in like various DM guides and that it's like setting up expectations for your players and listening to your players beforehand to know what they kind of want to do. Like it's like asking your players like, hey, what scene would you like to play out? And utilizing that. So I'm certain there would have been a lot of discussion of the kind of the narrative plot line that it was going to follow. Not with spoilers or anything. I doubt they would have been told like Lucretia Hollow is evil or things like that, but it would have been like, here's the general gist of what's going to happen, to guide it along. And in saying that, it didn't even feel railroaded because I think it was very much like just one mission. It was like a one shot over 4 parts. Well, technically that is what it is, but it was very much like, here you are, this is the start, this is the introduction, here's the problem, and that problem persisted to the end. So it didn't need to be railroaded because everything they did, everywhere they went, was to solve the one problem that was going to lead them to the end. And yeah, it was. It was so well structured. It was nice and segmented. Multiple times they split the party, and it felt warranted. It felt felt useful. But yeah, no, it was very, very well planned. I don't think we can stress that enough how well produced and well organized this campaign was. And it shows. It's like so enjoyable and easy to watch.
It does. And as we were kind of saying, everything was wrapped up for the most part. Everything that could be wrapped up was wrapped up. We had so many different threads and questions. We had what happened to Evandrin, what's going on with the tithe, with the arboreal calyx and the Galdrashari, what is going on with Loquacious, because there's a lot of questions about is Loquacious like more heavily involved with what's going on, because there was a lot of like deception checks and things like that. Obviously, ultimately we learned that Loquacious was defending Leyrin this whole time and protecting Leyrin from being found out with what she was doing. And that whole storyline of Loquacious and Leyrin's love story was tragically beautiful. But all of this got answered. In episode 3 and episode 4, we finally got all of the answers that we were looking for. I think the only one that I don't really think was answered satisfyingly enough for me is why, like, I get Vespin Chloris, but then I don't understand why or how then the rest of like the Magisters were brought into it, and like Loris was brought into it, like Hollow, Magister Cormorant. I
think it was similar to Xerxes. I think they will probably promise things by Asmodeus not understanding the full scope of it. I think they were tricked.
That's probably
because even when Asmodeus got in and he's like, oh, all the people that were here to help me, they're gone. Oh well, like.
And I think we also have to remember, because this has probably been planned for many years and stuff. Because we also have to remember that like Lucretia Hollow was actually Zartaza and Arenes. And then Mila's friend, also Magister, was actually a demon of some kind. So it's possible they've been planted here for a while.
Lucretia Hollow wasn't the Arenes, though, was she? Because Lucretia Hollow, she died in that resident sphere.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
But I felt like anything. I feel like sometimes, because some of the episodes I couldn't watch live, so I watched kind of fast. people switched on immediately to the airness being the sentience inside the mace of the Black Crown. Like, people switched on immediately as soon as that name came up. I had no idea. I did not make any connection to it at all. So last night when people were screaming in the chat, going, the mace! I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what's going on? Yeah. Oh, cool. That's neat. I thought, they're screaming the mace. I'm like, is Xerxes being turned into a mace? What's happening? Like, but no, that was excellent. That was like such a cool kind of connection. But yeah, I feel like the Magisters and that their general gist was just that they were initially with Vespin on the plan of, let's see if we can unseat a betrayer god and use that power. But ultimately it was just like, oh well, we've got, we'll see what we can do with what we've got, essentially. Like, if the Lord of the Hells is coming through, let's be on the winning side. They made poor choices. Why is it always the necromancers?
I don't know. I feel like they always get a
bad name.
Yeah, can someone write a good necromancer? Character? They're just doing things for the good, greater good.
Man.
But I really liked Asmodeus in episode 4 when he stepped forth and learned how the matron of ravens had taken like the seat of a prime deity. He's like, I can't even remember my sibling's name because they were taken over, and he was like laughing and in I told you so manner, how that's what you get for giving them all this power. Like, they fucking usurped you, which was hilarious. But again, it's interesting to see the betrayer god's perspective on how they view everything that's happening. How they're like, fuck humanity, fuck these guys. We're gonna kill them all.
And kind of like annoyed and angry with the prime deities, but like still be like, no, they're my siblings. Like, we're gonna hash it out a bit, but at the end of the day, they'll come to their senses, and we will come to this conclusion together that mortal should be gone. It's
it's branching off of what you said. It's interesting that it seems like from the betrayer god's eyes, the reason why they hate humanity so much is because they were the main reason why there is like this schism between the betrayer gods and the prime deities. Like, we were fine before, like we were fine when we were making the world, but as soon as mortals came into the picture and we started giving them magic, that's when shit started to go south. And so that's where a lot of their hatred for humanity comes from. Which is interesting. Really interesting.
It's a cool motive. Still murder.
Still murder.
Yeah.
Cool motive.
Can we talk about Nidus?
Yes, I was going to say, because we were also talking about like our favorite characters and stuff, and I think for me, Sarat and Nidus are probably my favorite characters, just because they felt the most above board, if you will, like most like
the least magey.
Least magey. Yeah.
No, Nidus was such an excellent build. One, like, just lose charisma into this essentially like pirate captain tradesman was so fun. I think moving from like Xerxes' intro and the horrifying way that Brennan started the campaign, and then jumping into Nidus's was like a real kind of relief for just. Yeah, it was a lot lighter. It was a lot lighter to begin with, but that character arc of it felt like Nidus was, he was there to support his friends and keen to get answers and keen to get understanding. But at the end of the day, he loved people, and that was his his guiding.
And, like, not, I guess, people in a general sense, but like the people, not the upper echelon, not the Arcsept, not the other rings. The people of Avalier. That's who he loved.
Because he came from that level. Because he started as just one of the people. But no, I love that as a character trope of like local hero becomes guildmaster, and then manages to save as many people as they possibly can.
So
that might have been one of my favorite parts of episode 4, just them fighting against the devils. Even if it was a little part, but just the taxman and the Sphinx.
Oh my god.
The Sphinx was the best character, hands down.
I agree. The Bolo and the Sphinx.
The conversation in episode 1 with the Sphinx might be the hardest I've laughed at anything in CR. Just the making of a deal with the Sphinx and like offerings of boons.
Oh my god.
It's a boon!
Yeah. That was incredible. That was actually incredible.
Yeah. No. I loved it. There was so much going on with the Guildmaster's Hall. His assistant, was it Alessandra? Or no, I can't remember his name. The guy with the little candle. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, I loved every time. And Shakazan, the dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have time for this. Shut the fuck up. We don't have time for this.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Let's go.
That was
fun. So much fun, that character. Oh, just bad. I was getting stabbed in the back and turning around.
That was good. Oh, that was
good. That was like, and talking of Brennan's one-liners, that's like one of the most villainous lines that I've heard.
Wrote it down.
The gods made all the gold that would ever exist. There'll always be more people.
Yep, there'll always be more people. Yep. Damn. Yep.
Yeah. That was really cool.
And then I think when that happened, because everyone's reactions to a lot of the just tragically beautiful things that were happening were so great from the rest of the cast. But I remember specifically for that one, I always said there will always be more people. Travis
he repeated it.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Brennan? Oh my god, it was just so funny. But it was so good. It was so good. I guess we can kind of start morphing into like the final episode and stuff.
Yeah.
Since there's so much to talk about this whole thing, but we gotta keep it as concise as we can.
If we forget stuff though, chat, that we really should talk about.
If there are definitely big specific things you want to talk about,
because it's been a while for some of these episodes, but we want to talk about stuff.
We knew this was going to be a 6.5-hour episode going into it. I think a lot of us started questioning how that was going to happen with how the episode started. Because episode 3 ended with Aisha touching the tree, the light being casted, and then that was the end of episode 3. An insane build-up, and then episode 4 began with the rolling of all of that. And I think all of you probably made note that the first hour of episode 4 was just 1 second in-game.
Yeah.
Because there was just so much that needed to be resolved in that 1 second. That blew my mind, actually.
Yeah. That was wild.
Yeah.
That was brutal. I was the same too. Like when all that damage was being done, and like proper damage, like magical item destruction, limbs being exploded, body parts being sundered. Yeah, I was like, ooh. How did they come back from this? How did I was like, is there going to sit quietly for 5 hours? Like, I was really concerned. Let's break it down, because first the magical items being destroyed, I loved. That was such a cool mechanic and horrifying for the setting that they're in. The fact that they all had about like at least 2-3 items on them each. Was a horrifying thought.
Especially when you consider Haisha had a staff of power, a literal atom bomb if that got disenchanted. Yeah.
Did she roll for her orb? I can't remember.
I don't think so. She rolled for Ring of Protection, Staff of Power, And
Ring of Mind Shielding.
Ring of Mind, and the Mind Shielding is the one that we got.
So I'm guessing it might have been more mechanical of like the magic items you have maybe attuned or equipped, and the magic orb might have been something different. It might have been a different feature, but thank God that didn't go, because that became important later. But the magic damage, the fire damage, and then the force damage, it was brutal. Because by the end, it was literally just Leyrin alive.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
with like 22 hit points. The brick shit house of wizards was alive.
I remember talking in the pre-stream. We had a big conversation on like who's gonna die first. Like, is someone gonna die within the first like couple minutes of the episode and stuff? And I had the naive thought that the first death wasn't going to happen until the break. But I also figured, because this is a story of tragedy, and I compared it to like Rogue One and stuff, where a lot of the main characters in Rogue One would just die. Like, they just died, no build up, no nothing, like boom, no dramatics, they're just dead. And I was like, I love that, because it makes it more impactful almost. And that's exactly what happened in this first 1 second. Paisha literally getting obliterated. Losing her arm, her hand getting blown off, and then just being engulfed in flame. It was like, oh my god. Brennan is not holding back.
That line of, where is Paisha weak? Is Paisha weakest at the shoulder or the elbow? I was just like, no. No, it was so cool. Like, it should be horrifying. It is horrifying, but it's so cool.
But then just like again, like the ramp up of damage, where then it was like, because when Paisha died, it was like, oh, she's just gone. She's just obliterated.
It went over her maximum. Like,
But then like again, like Quacius going down, and then Nidus going down, and then Xerxes going down. It was like, this is bad.
Because when Xerxes went down, it's like, I think Lou said to Brie, like, do you have healing spells? And he was just like, I'm a wizard.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Exactly. And one thing that I had written down is every decision had weight in this miniseries, but especially so in these last 2 episodes. And I wrote down that I think one of the most important decisions that could have been made was Serret leaving the group when he realized that Laren was still going to carry out her plans, even though Evandrin's life was forsaken because of it. And Serret was like, I leave the room. Because it could have been maybe not vastly different, but it could have been a very different outcome if Serret was in there. I'm pretty sure Serret would 100% survive, because he has rogue shit, evasion, all that crazy stuff. So Serret probably would have survived, but things could have been different if he was there when it all happened.
He might not have had the time to find his children if he had stayed there and do everything, because they immediately then went to the Hall of Prophecies. It could have been like a side thing, but
the Sending Stones could have blown up from the Calyx.
God, it could have been completely different. I'm so glad. I'm so glad Serret wasn't there. But no, I loved Brennan asking them, like, what expression or like what is going through your mind as you are kind of being blasted back and having essentially your life taken away from you. I love Sam's description of Loquacious, like constantly shifting and going through so many different faces. And I think Mauritius was my favorite, just that grim realization of, you can have, you said before, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if it dies with you, it means nothing. Which is kind of like an antithesis of the moral of the story at the end of the story. It's like, what's the point of having, like, learning everything in life if you don't pass it on? Well, it's because it still happened and you still had the knowledge at some point. You can still find meaning in that, hopefully. But that was a cool description of just like it was a low point. It was a real low point for the characters when the tree blew up.
It was, but it's we saw their character arcs. We saw the character progression in all of this. We saw the hubris in the beginning, but then we saw the humility at the end.
Yeah.
Like they were humbled by everything that happened, and all of a sudden, everything that they had worked toward does not matter anymore. All they want to worry about and care about is each other, and saving as much as they can. Of mortals as a whole. Which was satisfying to see. In the end, and I know Adam is probably gonna be really excited about this one and happy about this one. The orb, the staff of power, the reskinned thing that held all the knowledge. Paisha bamfed that to Maya. And Adam, among others, have already been theorizing that is then the foundation of like the Cobalt Soul.
Yeah, that's cool.
Of being the knowledge keepers of Exandria.
That'd be cool.
Because we don't really know of this thing's existence in modern lore.
No.
But maybe the Cobalt Soul does, like the High Curator maybe holds on to it, which would be really cool if it ever comes up. Like they go to like the main Cobalt Soul library, and they come upon the ancient relic of knowledge, and it's like, holy shit, that's. Yeah, patience.
We don't even know where we got it from. Like it's just always been here. But yeah, it is kind of like telling that it was a model of the library she sent. And it's not to suggest that even Maya started it, but it could just be something that was passed down for a while. But I do like that she was able to save that knowledge and everything that happened. There was a chance that the story could be told, but it's not a certainty. It's just giving it a chance, which was really nice.
So
I like just what you were saying before too about like how like that was their low point, and then they were able to kind of be humbled and still save the city, save the city, still get to their goal at the end. It is that kind of what I was talking about before, about the veneer of the city being ripped away, how it's tarnished, how we learn more from Paisha about her grandfather and how awful he was. Like his understanding that, the city must be perfect, to the point where seemingly we assume he modified her memory to erase any mention of her parents because they failed somehow. The veil is thrown away. We see that the circle of whatever they called, the seven, the Septarian, they're like, oh no, everyone give your power to us. We need to protect the top ring. It's all thrown away. The lie that was Avalier is revealed. Which is it sucks in the one way because you kind of want an ideal society to exist. Like everyone wants that utopia, but that's why utopia is like a fictional thing. It's like it's practically impossible to achieve. There's always going to be some downfall. There's always going to be some aspect that is not utopian. And should have seen it coming.
I loved the big mystery surrounding this arboreal calyx because we as the viewers were basically subconsciously led to believe that this arboreal calyx was malicious because that's how the PCs viewed it. They're like, it's this thing that's absorbing our power and we don't know why. Like there's all this mystery shrouded around it. Like what is going on here? And so we are already wary of what it is. But ultimately what we found out is that it was here to protect ourselves from the hubris of these mages, because they knew that someone was probably going to attempt that shit again, and so they were using it to, and it was genius because they were then using the arboreal calyx to protect the ley lines as Avalier traveled. Because that's why that's why Leyrin's plan wasn't working, is because the arboreal calyx was blocking it. The ley lines were being like arcanely protected by the Gau Deshari, which was really cool reveal.
Yeah, I feel like I just from meta knowledge for most of the part, I kind of assumed it was going to be something they shouldn't tamper with, just because the concept of the druids being gifting it to them, I couldn't possibly imagine that it was writing a spell across the face of Exandria, which is the coolest fucking thing. That's such a cool mechanic. But yeah, I was under the understanding that it was going to be to their detriment if they destroyed it. Whether or not it was, something to do with the Titans, I wasn't fully certain. But I think it was in the 3rd episode before the tree was destroyed. They mentioned how the Wild Mother was still sealing away the Titans in Kath Moira, and like the druids were still working. I was like, that's what they want the power for then, surely, because to maintain the spell, to maintain that lock. So that's when I started to get concerned. But there was a really good, I'm trying to find it, there was an excellent comment on Reddit, and I'm not going to be able to find it. It's going to really annoy me. I was talking about how the wizards of Avalier were spoiled by their intelligence. Like, they thought they knew so much, and even in their quest for knowledge, we see Emir trying to access the knowledge of what the tithe and what the arboreal calyx was. That thirst for knowledge was eventually their downfall. And for the druids, it was their wisdom that was their downfall. The fact that they didn't trust and didn't pass on this information. Like, I think Paisha says at one point in episode 4, the druids could have been more forthcoming. And that was like my biggest takeaway from episode 3. It's like, there should have been like a handbook for this calyx, but I get why they didn't pass the information on, why they didn't tell them, because, it's, imagine what could have been done with this device which can write a spell across the face of Exandria. Imagine if you changed the spell. One of my favorite D&D podcasts outside of Critical Role, they had a similar mechanic in one of their campaigns where there was a gem in the middle of the city that if you cast a spell on it, it casts that spell over the entire city. And someone was trying to get in to cast essentially like a death spell. But I love that idea of like mass spell writing. And it's you get why they didn't tell them, but it could have saved a lot of...
But then I like the reveal of... I mean, and it wasn't like a crazy reveal, but the idea that the Gaudaishari did this and knowing that people would forget and that history would only remember them as the Ashari. Like, that's all that would survive. The protectors of Exandria, of the elements, the primal elements and stuff. So, it's was just so good. So good. So good. But then we finally finished the 1 second of devastation, and we had again the whole scene with Xerxes and Asmodeus flipping the switch and just going full Lord of the Hells on Xerxes, stabbing him, ripping his face off, and
I wonder if he would have still... I wonder if he still would have done that if Xerxes wasn't pushing so hard for that atonement. Well, because that's what that triggered Asmodeus a bit. Of the, like, we did nothing wrong, I have nothing to atone for. It's kind of like that. I have nothing to be sorry for. So it's like, I wonder if that still would have happened. I feel like probably yes, because Xerxes probably would have tried, regardless. Xerxes wasn't going to give up on this idea that something is not right with the Lord of the Hells. I can redeem them. I can offer them some salvation. That was brutal. That was...
But then the big one for me was how Asmodeus was like, when all is said and done, when I am victorious and I have you all and my siblings in my realm, my only
the greatest heart, right?
is that I only have eternity to punish them.
Yeah, I had that quote written down too.
Fuck.
That is... Oh
God damn.
and the staring into the eyes and seeing the extent of the hate, like pure hatred for everything, and it was like doesn't hate humanity in an alien way. He wants them to know they deserve it.
Yep.
Dude's got issues like that's
Yeah,
and I've got to stop saying I love everything, but I love everything.
Yeah.
The way Xerxes took that and so, so good, but to be like, oh well, I pity you. Like,
Yeah.
it's such a fucking slap in the face.
I know.
It's just like,
'Cause that made him
you
even
hate me
stuff.
so much. How sad for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's the
Like,
perfect
look
kind
at
of
how
turn
much
the
you
other
hate
kid.
yourself. Like, it's just
Yeah.
rejection.
Oh, and he said, "You poor thing. You
Yeah.
poor thing."
Oh.
It was so good,
man.
and it just reinforces that concept that like Xerxes doesn't believe in the gods. Xerxes is all about the people. They get their power from the will of the people and the will of their love for the people around them. You poor thing, such a bitchy like, and it didn't come across bitchy. It wasn't meant to be bitchy,
Right.
but I'm interpreting it as bitchy.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so good.
It's the most sass ever.
Oh yeah.
Sassing the Lord of Hells. But
Calling them children was amazing.
Yeah. But then obviously being killed and being severed and having that moment with Evandrin and the choice to make the deal.
Yeah. That might be the nicest thing Asmodeus did, giving Xerxes that choice.
Yeah.
But it also just makes you feel like Xerxes is still so inconsequential to Asmodeus. The fact that they were willing to even possibly let Xerxes go. I don't know, would they just find someone else to wield the Black Base? Someone else to be their champion?
I think because Asmodeus' whole thing is eternal torment without death. And I think Asmodeus knew that the greatest punishment and the greatest eternal torment that Xerxes could have is becoming a champion.
Yeah.
And never being able to redeem Asmodeus and the rest of like the devils that he comes across. Like, and never being able to achieve his goal is like the greatest torment for Xerxes.
And I think even in saying what I just said, I realize Asmodeus is also a devil. It is also about deals. Like, it had to be, for lack of a better, it had to be consensual, essentially, to enter into this pact with him. That's why it was a choice. And when he agreed to it, that's when the contract started to be written. And even the changes that Vespin was able to make later, Asmodeus was still like, oh, I see what you've done. Well, I can abide by this because it is a part of the deal, it's part of the contract. I've always loved that concept of, devils and contracts and deals and, being clever with your words. Bad contract. That was wild. Like, we talked about that a little bit before, but when Vespin was cut out, just immediately just like, bad contract, and like fixing it, the moment of clarity that they had. It's good stuff.
Really, really good stuff. But then obviously we had Xerxes coming back, resurrecting Quay and Paisha. I was like, oh, okay, so they're not just going to sit here, for the next 5 hours and stuff. These characters are still going to be resolved in some way. But then it was like, oh no, I'm going to have to see all these characters die again. After what's going to happen. But I really liked how each of them almost had, they basically each had their own solo scene. Where they went off to go redeem themselves. And this was then like the redemption arc that each of them had then. They had their humble arc. Or they've been humble now they're going off to do what they can to save the city.
Where they learned their lesson, essentially, and then put it into action. It's like, this is what I've learned from my experiences, and this is how I'm changing.
And I was so worried that then with all of these scenes, we were going to see them die once they finish their goal, especially with Davis. Before the Sphinx reveal and stuff, he beat the betrayal, he killed Badran, and then carried on to release, or I can't remember the order of events, but then he carried on to release the taxmen, the Hadmadads, to help aid the city and to get people to board the ships to escape and stuff. But then how Brennan was like, and now you are surrounded by these devils. Like, there's no way out. I thought it was going to be like a and you go down fighting, fade to black sort of deal, and Nidus is not seen again. Like, that's what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
With that, and then I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to do this with every character, where they're going to have their own solo scene where they do something to help save the city, and then they die.
Yeah, I was thinking that, and then I was like, oh, there's still 3 hours to go of this stream. Like, but no, I kind of thought that, and I was a bit bummed. I was like, I hope they don't die separately. Like, I kind of want them to be together. But yeah, no, so Nidus had his wonderful redemption of realizing what's worth more than gold, and was able to like rally the people and save the people. Excellent story arc.
Really, really good. And then we had Keisha kind of giving the finger to her great-grandfather or grandfather, giving the finger to Eldamir and Loris, kind of turning her back on that whole side, giving all the knowledge that she has curated away, something that she has held so dear, giving it away.
That was a really good moment of like, the second it's gone, she kind of reaches for it as if to be like, I need it back. But really cool.
Letting it go. Obviously, I think, or well, maybe not obviously, but for me, one of the most heartbreaking scenes of Serret reuniting with his children once again. And just oh my god, I loved the angst. I loved it because he goes there and he's like, I'm gonna send you back to your mom, but like, I will see you again. And then Brendan was like, and then Maya says, Dad, why is your ring glowing? I was like, oh.
And then the son said, like, did I do something wrong?
Yeah. Oh my god.
I think that maybe, like, and not to like, make a big deal of it or anything, but Travis was looking a bit choked up in those scenes.
Yeah. Sam was like, that's the saddest I've ever seen Sam.
Yeah, it's like the best thing Brennan Lee Mulligan did in the entire show was give the children a way out. It was beautiful. It was heartbreaking. It hurt so bad. I wouldn't even call it angst, because angst is like when it's like, someone's getting punched down on and you're like you enjoy it because it's like, God, it's angsty. This was sad. This was just sad. And then like the kind of realization, this is like with a bit of Serret's fatal flaw was the fact that they were so involved with his work and didn't spend enough time with the children and like pretty real world issues. And burning the house down. I thought he was going to go down with the house.
Same.
Like, that's the thing.
Same. I was like,
go, leave. I don't know if this might have been something that was discussed to be like tighter, or maybe it's just Brendan being such a good DM that he knows what his players are after. But when Travis was like, I'm just staring into their room, taking it all in, I was like, I hope he like learns about his children by doing this, and it's exactly what happened. I was like, yes, like yes, you're getting insight into your children's lives by looking at their room. That was perfect. And thank God he left. I was so worried he was just going to stay in the burning building. But then that's when that second happened, because it's like, and then immediately you get all of that psychic energy and you get Layron passing on this information, and it's like, okay, we're synced up now. That was goddamn kids. These goddamn kids.
Oh man, that was so, and I had kind of talked about this too, and a lot of people held the same sentiment, that I think a lot of people either thought Serret was going to die first, or Serret was going to be the only one that survived, because Serret is like, I would say Serret and Nidus were the most deserving to like survive the whole thing, but I didn't really think Nidus was going to survive. I held out hope from the very beginning that Serret was going to be the one to survive all of this, just because he felt like the most like good, well-intentioned character.
Responsible.
most responsible character out of all.
I said least responsible in
least
terms of the Calamity.
Yeah.
The least deserving of
Of shit happening. But then my sad loving side was always like, but then it would make his death even more tragic, and like his thing, despite everything that happened, he did still die.
Just to jump ahead, and I'm doing it on purpose, but yeah, that his decisions in the final moments, I was unsure of what was going to happen, because when it's starting to crumble and the building is essentially collapsing, the city is collapsing, and the earth is rising up to swallow and destroy a continent. Like, this is a big cataclysm that is happening, like massive. I thought when I think it's like Brennan asked him, like, what do you do? Do you try to flee? Do you try to leave? And Travis said, I go to the door and look out. I owe my children at least that much. And I thought that was going to be it. I thought it was like, I'm going to make a move, but I don't think I can really get out of this. And I think Travis would have been okay with ending the character there. It felt kind of like a final choice of I go down with the ship with everyone else. Like, this is a story about how we all died. But just those little extra booms, those little extra pieces, still having the inspiration from Nidus. And the fact that inspiration was such a cool one. That was the one where it's like Vespin Chloris, not a bad name to have on your list. Like, it was such a bolstering inspiration. To get that little bit of information and to get that role, that perfect role. It was beautiful. It was perfect. And I love that he was able to survive and to return to his family. And there's no guarantee of safety.
Exactly. Like, this whole series has been so cinematic, but especially that last fight in the Layrite with Vespin Chloris and the Taxman, like, that fight was so cinematic, and I could see it so beautifully in my head of like every action that was playing out and stuff. And we obviously can't forget Travis's natural 20 to kill Vespin off of that.
I think what made that combat in particular so exciting too was there was a time limit on it. It was you have 3 turns until the city locks down. Layering, you need to get your 3 checks done. You need to and think about it, like, if you play it all out, it's like 18 seconds that she gets to it and does her magic, does all her checks, to limit the explosion, focus in on the elementals, and then activate it. All while there are these massive taxmen and Vespin Chloris firing off. It is so cinematic. That would be an excellent animation.
Seriously.
Man, this would make a great animated show. This full part.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking, because then this whole series was similar to Rogue One, but this specific scene was basically Rogue One's ending, where all of the characters are slowly dying off by defending, what's happening, and then up to the very end with Loquacious and Layron kind of like hugging each other and falling into each other's arms as the explosion happens and they're consumed in fire and stuff. But then Sarret maybe conceding to the idea that he's going to die here, but then Layron entering into his mind through that telepathic bond and being like, I can give you the way out. Like, I have it in my head where you can go. Then Sarret being like, oh shit. Alright, maybe this is doable. Maybe it is doable.
Oh, I'm getting like chills. I'm getting like the hairs on my arms are standing up thinking about it. It was masterful. It was... I haven't enjoyed something as much as this series in a while. I'm not to have any kind of negative things. I'm a little bit worried about going back to C3 because it's like I'm so invested in these characters. Like Bell's Hells Who, I've kind of forgotten what's going on with them. I want to just stay in this world. I want Calamity Part 2. I want to see what everyone's doing. I want to roleplay the hundreds of years of the Calamity.
Well,
Yeah,
it was like Sam was joking around saying this is chapter 1 of the Calamity.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I mean, there's still so much more of this era that lasts, a
Ooh.
century. And what I really loved Brennan's like wrap up narration of everything, where he was saying something along the lines of like, I know you won't get to see it, but I feel like you have the right to know about it. And he kind of explains what their actions are.
What the world looks like. It was very Divinity Original Sin 2, the credits of that game, of very much like your choices made these specific things happen. I liked it. That was very good. Because we jumped ahead, we didn't talk too much about Loquacious and what he did with his broadcast.
Oh my.
Which watch it, if you go back and watch it, pretty much from the point where they break up and they off to do their thing, Sam's writing the entire time. He's just writing. There was an amazing performance trapping Loras in that wall of force, and
that was so good,
forcing them to watch it. And then but just before that, I wanted to talk about the Sealy Court and his chance to escape, his ticket out of there. And I wonder, and I wish it was like a Q&A, because I'd love to ask Sam if Leyrin were with him in that moment and Leyrin could come with him, would he have left?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think the only, we know that, they stayed because of his love for Leyrin, for wanting to be with her. But I'm wondering to what extent his responsibility to the city would have outweighed his want to return to his home plane. Which is not like a judgment on that character's character, but, that's a big decision to be like, you are choosing death over your home and your people, essentially. But that was an incredible character. What was her name? It was Lady Elminor, High Warden of the Burning Vale, Matriarch of the Sealy Court. She was wonderful.
Isn't that who?
Yeah,
same
woman. Yep. them phase. Yep. Them phase be about. Yeah, no, that was beautiful, and just the line like, my heart breaks, but I'd rather my heart break than like while yours remains whole.
So many powerful lines.
But even just that, like, bit of lore, learning about the relationship between the Feywild and the Nine Hells, knowing that the Nine Hells were like, hey, we're giving you this one kind of thing, like get your people out while you can.
Because the Feywild and the Archfays and stuff, they're just like a separate whole thing from the Prime Deities and all of that. They are their own thing. That you could maybe say that the Feywild is separate to the material plane. So when the Prime Deities came to the material plane, the Feywild was just chucking along, like it was doing its own thing. Like, they're just like a disco ball floating through like the ethereal, nature and all these planes. They're just chilling on their own.
They don't care about the Prime Deities and their bullshit. Yep. Same for Shadowfell. So good. That was cool, and I'm glad that it was brought up. That they had this kind of chance, and it was a great character moment because we got to see Loquacious make a difficult choice, which seems to be a recurring aspect of that character, of these difficult choices they've made at the time, like looking at the desk of the reporter and realizing for once they had to hide the truth to protect the person they loved, and the kind of guilt they feel about that. I liked it.
Leaving the pin behind.
Yeah, essentially resigning in that moment. It was excellent. And just speech. We don't even need to talk about it because it was just, as a standard, it was like Sam gave a speech and it was good.
And it was good,
right? Yeah.
The fucking sponsorship at the end. Oh my god.
But that's like, oh god, I'm gonna rant. I'm getting into ranting mode, like,
Yep.
not like good ranting mode.
Oh,
but
yeah,
that's
yeah,
like, again, speaking to the incredible improv of Brennan, because that was suggested by the NPC. That was like, imagine this woman
yeah.
having teleported in, like, you know, summoned by her boss in the middle of the night, there in an instant. And, you know, saying, all right, yeah, let's get to work. Let's do it. Hey, we've got an ad sponsorship. Do you want to include it as well? Like that, just playing off that. This is someone that's just come from, you know, role-playing Asmodeus to now role-playing this. Like, jealous of his DMing abilities. So good. Talented. So good.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it.
Just Loras on the phone to all the magisters and be like, yes, I'm here at the Herald's Tome. I'm here with he's
casting a spell. He's casting a spell.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
But then being muffled behind the wall, of course, like shouting out, just
Yeah. Perfect.
Each of them just had such a satisfying conclusion. Since they did have their redemption, they had their humility, they were put in their place, and then they did.
I don't think I was unsatisfied about any part of it. I was sad for Xerxes. I was sad for Nidus. There was like some like joy to be had from like Loquacious and that was very bittersweet their end. I think. Yeah, and Paisha, she had like a little bit of redemption for her role in what Avalier was, like what people considered Avalier to be. But all of it was so satisfying. And the thing we said with Seret, it could have gone either way. Like I think I would have been okay. I would have obviously been more sad had they died, but I would have been fine with it either way. Yeah.
And now I'm branching off of Adam's idea of like this ball, this orb of knowledge. Oh,
yeah.
So
the kind. About Xerxes with his son.
Oh,
that's when I started crying in this episode when because I don't know if it was just because I work with teenagers a lot. I was expecting the teenager to be very much like, you know, not talking to his dad because he's a bit angsty, but he's not talking to his dad because he himself is also grieving and like, you know, a confused teenage boy, and like when he's sitting there with the kite in his lap and saying, I don't know why I didn't send it. That messed me up a lot.
But
sorry,
branching off of Adam's idea of like that orb of knowledge that Aisha gave to Maya being the foundation of the Cobalt Soul. I'm now thinking about that even more because Seret lived, right? Seret was like a peacekeeper, a detective, the eyes of Avalier, the sight warden. He reunites with his family. He now is also technically in possession of that orb. And we know the Cobalt Soul is all about the curation of knowledge and weeding out corruption. That's basically what Seret's job was in Avalier. It totally makes sense that he would be the one to restart like an organization all about curating knowledge and weeding out the corrupt mages, the checks and balances of power, making sure people don't get too powerful, and putting an end to it, because Seret knows exactly what happens when power goes unchecked. So it's actually, y'all, I think Seret was the founder of the Cobalt Soul. You heard it here first.
Or at the very least, the morals and lessons he instilled in his children were passed down for generations. But because that's the thing too, they mentioned in the finale, like, you know, we don't know what happened to Seret. Like, you know, they 2/3 of the entire population of Exandria were killed during the Calamity. There's no guarantee that they were safe, but they were together. It's very sweet and sad.
It's so tragic.
Well, that's what I was thinking. That's a good point, because Cobalt Soul, not necessarily worshipping God, but under the eyes of Ayun.
Yeah.
Like the knowing mistress, her symbol is an eye. The watcher's symbol is an eye. That was the other connection that I thought of as well. Yeah, Meanie just brought it up.
Yep.
Sarah, champion of Ayun. Yeah, made me think of it.
Oh wow.
And sorry, I've got to chill. Gotta chill.
Please.
And I was thinking about that in the introduction, in the title sequence. All the stained glass windows we see are relevant to the story. The cobalt soul is there as well. Doesn't come up in the story, but.
Interesting. One other one-liner that I really like because it reminded me of the stained glass is between Xerxes and Asmodeus, where Asmodeus is like, "You're extending your hand beneath you towards me, but you're assuming that I'm
below you."
Like, that's not the case. No one is beneath me. Just again, so many good one-liners.
Anything with Xerxes and Asmodeus as a one-on-one was incredible. Their conversation of like, when Asmodeus shouts like, "I did nothing wrong," and stabs Xerxes, and it's like, oh no, but then Xerxes immediately like retaliates. He shouts like, "You're wrong," and that's like he's loud and he's got a big voice. And that's when the whole conversation, like I wrote it down, it's like, the gods were wandering in the abyss, lost. You didn't create anything. You came here. We were already here. You didn't shape anything. You didn't create. You're a child and you're lost. What the fuck, man? Like, leave some roleplay for the rest of us.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. I feel like I learned so
great.
much from just watching them all roleplay. And how DMs, like I feel like I learned, like I took a lot from how they played their game.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I did like the shattered teeth reveal.
Yeah. That was
really cool. Because it was talked about being the smile of Exandria, so a lot of people were like, "Ooh, I wonder if it becomes the shattered teeth or whatever." Sure enough.
Yeah. I like the theory. It's my theory. I like it. The fog cloud that kind of protects the shattered teeth. It's called the Fool's Curtain. For whatever reason, that fog cloud might exist. Maybe it's because of like magma flows causing the water to steam or whatever. But it's almost like it's a curtain to block the shame of the teeth. It's called the Fool's Curtain because anyone that sails into it is a fool. But my theory is it's called the Fool's Curtain because the other reason makes more sense. But, the foolishness of the city, the foolishness of its destruction. I loved when they were dismissing the primordials and we got that image of them melding together, essentially, before being sent across the plains. They're still out there. Like... Those massive king and emperor and empress titans still exist, and we obviously know that titans, although not so much extinct, what's the word for a volcano that's not extinct? Dormant titans still exist. There was the one in campaign 1. It's exciting to think that it is still a thing that potentially could happen.
Especially with, and again, comes back to campaign 3, like there's a solstice coming up. Who knows what's gonna happen with that.
The first EXU too, there was a bunch of elemental shit happening in that. That was never fully explained. Elemental chaos. Primordial stuff.
There's a lot of, that's why I was saying, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that we had a Calamity series now. I feel like it's setting us up for something to happen in campaign 3. Could be totally separate, but I wanna hold on to the belief that again, I feel like Calamity's coming.
It's probably just gonna be like some wizards on the other side of the globe are gonna attempt time travel, and it's gonna completely mess everyone up, and we're gonna know their names. Oh my goodness. Second Calamity feels too soon. We're already No, it's fine. If we can get Calamity in 4 episodes, we can get Calamity in 24 episodes. We're good.
See, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh my word.
I know there's always going to be stuff to talk about with EXU Calamity because
Lordy.
it's such a pleasure and privilege to be able to witness it all, pulled by such talented players and a dungeon master. Well, is there anything else we wish to touch on?
I have my whole list of things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
I got to most of it. I just had a bit about the Kanathi. I thought that was such a cool concept. The idea of clerics that, believe in their things and their gifted powers based on their beliefs. And the more they believe and the more they worship and, spread the word, the more power they gain. But these Kanathi were so quickly and almost instantly twisted and empowered that it made them these puppets. That was cool. I thought they were an excellent monster to bring in.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of. I played the Diablo games a lot, and a lot of the imagery of these Kanathi and the way they were transforming into demons was very similar to creatures and enemies in the Diablo games and stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, this is some brutal shit. Like, especially the idea that they were basically just vessels. The Kanathi were vessels for these demons, because when Asmodeus entered the realm, the Kanathi were transformed into devils, into demons, which was horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. But then, another thing I want to talk about, that Night Haunter saying Lou also had some incredible one-liners, but also more in a... I feel like Lou had a lot of bolstering one-liners, encouraging one-liners. I remember when it was in episode 4 when he's trying to evacuate the city, and Vedran was like, no, we need to send these ships to the upper echelons, we need to do that stuff. And Nidus was like, damn the ring of gold, fuck those guys, we're here for the people and stuff. And just so many powerful shouting these lines out was
cool. And Lou's got a powerful voice as well. It's beautifully told, and I think we mentioned Louis's voice as well. Just good acting all around. Fully invested in the characters, and I know we keep saying, but it is the perfect example of playing your character to their absolute best. Loved it.
Absolutely.
But you're right, there is so much, and I'm sure there's stuff we're forgetting, and there's so many minor moments, I mean, the waterfall scene with Xerxes talking to Asmodeus, the prophecies. The prophecy.
Yep.
The invisibility scene, the best description of a spell I've ever seen. Because I'm a fucking nerd like that too. I've always thought invisibility would suck as a superpower, because if your eyes are invisible, you can't see shit. So the fact that Brennan picked up on that and was like, well, no, there's always going to be an aspect of magic be damned, let's bring physics into this. I lost my shit at that line. I was just like, yes, someone's acknowledged it finally. That was so cool. That was real
30
high.
or something, to
see two grains of sand floating in synchronicity. Synchronicity? That's the word. You know what I mean. Amazing. But we're gonna have forgotten things, and
but that almost just goes to show just how incredible this was, that there's so much to talk about and to spotlight with this series, that it's easy to forget 50 of them when there were 50 others equally as awesome that were talked about. So it's great. We got to have chapter 2 of Calamity with the other half of the Critical Role cast.
Oh yeah.
And, maybe some other guests.
Maybe they can be all Kath Moira people.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because I
Lordy.
think some people were saying how there could be like a chapter 2 of like the end of the Calamity, like the creation of the Divine Gate and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
how like
I feel,
this
champions,
like yeah
champions of the gods. Like
yeah
if someone plays Pokemon and
hmm
there are other champions, because I mean those vestiges were created for people to use. There would have been
yeah
champions of the age.
hmm
And Xerxes would be there for
oh, and
that sort of
Xerxes is
thing.
like the final boss or whatever. Oh my god,
Lordy,
yeah,
lordy.
that'd be cool. And then I was like,
I'm
oh,
still.
and Sarah could be there, but I was like, oh no, Sarah's just a little Aarakocra. They don't have the longest lifespan.
I do kind of like. I'm still putting my name in my resume in for DMing EXU Happy Fun Times. Like,
Oh, yep.
let's have that.
Yep.
I think, and they mentioned it too. How much of a tone shift is it going to be from this
for
episode
next
to not Honey Heist? The
Sprinkles Adventure.
Sprinkles Adventure.
All that I hope from that is that Travis plays as Sprinkle.
I think if that doesn't happen, it's going to be a travesty.
Yeah, a travesty.
Yeah. We're funny. We have jokes here.
Yeah. I'm excited for that though, and I feel like because again, it'll be a funny tonal shift from Calamity to the Sprinkles Adventure, but I think we need something like that to then get us back into campaign 3.
100%. Yeah.
We need a bit of a gap.
And we should hopefully,
as Marisha had said.
yeah, 100%. We should then hopefully have like 1, 2, 3, 4 episodes of campaign 3 before they take their monthly break as well. So like a nice chunk. Because what's happened in campaign 3? Where are we up to? Imogen's still.
Oh, they
bald,
they met Erika Ishii's character.
Correct. Yeah.
They're in Bosphorus, and they're still trying to find Armand Treshy.
That's it. Yeah. So that's a fun goal that they've still got ahead of them. I'm excited to get back into it. It's been a while. Did you see? The whole cast is in France at the moment.
Oh, really?
There's like an animation convention or like an award show or something like that. But I just saw a critter on Twitter. I had posted, I'm in France and I just met the entire cast of Critical Role. And it's like, there's just a picture of them all in a village meeting with this critter who's also from the States themselves and fairly certain. It's just like, can you imagine just going on vacation, just walking down a random village, a random town, and just the cast of Critical Roles there?
God.
You're like, what is happening? Like,
It's like
what
something
has
that happens in
broken?
like a dream.
Yeah, you just be like, am I dreaming? Am I awake?
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be pretty incredible. But no, it'll be exciting to get back to the main cast, and
Yeah.
I hope we see Brennan and also like Lou and Lewis again.
Yeah.
So I want to see Brennan play. I don't know if people have seen Brennan play before, but it's equally as scary as his DMing.
Oh no, yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for it. Do we have any other closing feelings we'd like to say just to wrap up? I've kind of said it all already, my thoughts on it.
Yeah. No, it was excellent.
Yeah.
It was rewatchable. I said, I'm so excited to rewatch it. And yeah, just stellar content. Absolutely excellent content. And we get this for free? Like, what the hell?
Oh, Jesus.
It was really good. And it just kind of, as you said, learnt so much from the players and from the DMing. It was just good D&D, good tabletop, good role-playing, good improv, good drama. Just, wonderful. Yeah, loved it.
And again, I hope someone out there turns this into an animation somehow. I don't care who does it. I don't know who I have to throw money at. Yeah, we got just a mini animated series of this show because it was just so cinematic from start to finish.
Yeah.
Memorable characters, memorable scenes, one-liners, all of it. Very well done by everyone involved. So
yeah,
very, very good. But I guess with that being said, we're going to wrap up our discussion for Exandria Unlimited Calamity. We will be back for Campaign 3 in a couple weeks' time. But until then, as always, thank you all so much for joining us on this journey, for hanging out, talking about Calamity. It's been a wild ride. It's been fun. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. This has been a crazy series.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's so
I'm
good.
sad it's over.
I know. But it had such a good ending.
Yeah, it was so perfect.
So good.
Yeah.
But thank you to everyone who watched and tuned in live. Thank you to everyone who's going to be watching this on the upload on YouTube or Spotify, Anchor, wherever else this podcast may find itself. If you are looking to support us further, be sure to follow us on Twitter, which is @WhatTheSheepPod. We post updates on when we go live, when we have to miss an episode. So if you're just wanting to keep up to date on when we have our podcast, be sure to follow us there. We super appreciate it.
Yeah.
With that being said, don't forget to love each other, spread the love to everyone you meet, to everyone you see, but don't forget to love yourself. That is the most important thing you can do, so make sure you're taking care of yourself. Drink some water, eat some food, get plenty of rest. I'm proud of you. Thank you for being here. And so, I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your morning, day, evening, wherever you may be on this glorious earth. And we'll see you all very soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I would just like to take a second to give a huge shout out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters. Thank you to all of my expositors, Leah, Olivia, Sean, Pseudonym, the DM's Den, and Hannah. Thank you to all of my archivists, Annika, Daniel, Elliot, Emerson, Melissa, Noel, John, Linnea, and Matt. And thank you to all of my high curators, Adam, Caleb, IMI, Andrea, Dustin, Rin, and Sylvia. Thank you all so very much for supporting me on Patreon. It truly does mean a lot to me. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Stay awesome, and I'll see you all in the next one.